swifter than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, it's Walter. I'm actually doing a very early morning show. It's actually like 4 o'clock. Pardon my breathing heavy. I'm trying to get this mic to be at a very comfortable spot where it's not too low or not too high. I haven't figured that out yet. It seems like always my soundtrack level readings are always kind of extremely low, but they sound good, I guess. And I have to thank there was a couple people at work that just started, or my job has been for the last 2 years, and they actually listened to my show. I mentioned it to them. I was surprised. They said I sounded really good, so I thank you for that. I always appreciate feedback, especially positive feedback. Who wouldn't? Because for myself, I don't think I'm that great. I told a friend, my friend Matt, and he was actually saying, well, there's more to it than just sounding good. And it was like, well, the whole purpose, unfortunately, is I did this as a way to, vent from my old job. Speaking about my older job, I really can't mention much, but there's a situation that's going to take place next month. And it's weird because I send out to a couple friends to say, hey, can you kind of read over this stuff and give me your input? And I really didn't get any response probably from anyone because they probably they've been telling me to just drop the whole situation. But my prior job I had worked, almost 2 decades at, and, I got basically a boot in the pants and I was out the door, and that was end of story. I really didn't get any satisfaction out of how it was let go. It was pretty unconventional to me. I don't know what else to say. It's probably not the proper word to use. But yeah, it was not a very pretty thing for me. And that being said, boy, I sound like my father now. I've been trying to fight this to get some justice out of an unjust situation, in my opinion. Not what I wanted to do, especially at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. But you know what? I was so tired. I think part of it's just a depression. Pardon me for a minute. Something just picked up, and okay. Sorry about this. See if I can kind of mute this. There we go. That's what's weird. I do everything on one computer now, and if I have my stories up, and I muted everything, but I don't want to mute the sound that I can't hear, myself. So I'm afraid to do so. Meaning that everything's done on one computer, one desktop. I'm going to try this right now and see if this. I'm going to try to mute everything except me. Alrighty, I muted everything else, and I'm still getting levels, so I apologize about that. Interruption so early. It's only been the first 3 minutes when that happened. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. Anyway, yeah, I honestly, I just kind of do this because it was a way, again, it was like therapy for me. It's kind of fun. And, I want to keep it that way. Now, if somebody would come along and say, hey, you know what? We would just like you to read something. And if it was fairly simple, because, Matt or laugh at this, anything that's too complicated, I just seem to, not do very well with. And But on the other hand, I hear like this one other friend of mine named Todd, or his name's Todd. He was mentioned to me like anymore, they just get anybody to do like newscast. He says basically, as long as you have a heartbeat, you can be a newscaster and you can read a teleprompter, I guess. He didn't go that far. But hey, you know what? If somebody offered me a job because voice sounds good and, you have a heartbeat and you can be dumber in the bag of rocks to do the job, that's right up my alley because I would take it in a heartbeat. It'd be much more fulfilling and entertaining to what I do now because anymore, like when I go to my job, it was bad before, but it seems like it's worse. Like I didn't think I was going to last one day at the job I've been at for 2 years, but so I'm like fighting myself subconsciously where I just end up falling asleep right when I go through the door. I just like somebody like from Star Wars takes the life force out of me. I don't know. Maybe that's not a very good way of putting it, but yeah, I mean, I feel like once I walk through this threshold, this door at my new job, that I am so tired that I'm always falling asleep, even on the job. Like my eyes just get drowsy, and I don't know if I don't think it's like anything like diabetes or like hints of diabetes, like or because I have no energy, or if it's and I forget things. So I hope it's not the the onset or whatever of dementia, but there's something going on. But personally, I just think it's, I worked really hard to get through, college, which was not an easy task for me, and was hoping for something a little bit more fulfilling than just doing a 9-to-5 job. Now, and cleaning wouldn't be one of them. One friend would say, well, why don't you open your own cleaning business? Money would be okay. It wouldn't be as good as what I made, but I would still probably be in the same boat. I would just be really depressed, and after a while, I think I would just sabotage even a company that I would basically run myself by, setting up my own cleaning business, because that's what's been said to me before on numerous occasions. So the bottom line is, I don't want anything like that either. Boy, my volume levels just keep on diminishing. So I hope everybody can hear me, because now the folks that at my job now said they heard me fine, so that's good. But I'm not seeing it on my end. I mean, right now I can hear myself, but I can't see like good volume levels. So, and I'm using a whole different platform too. I'm using, a Windows 10 on a PC, and before for quite a long time I was just always using Mac or a PC using Linux OS. And I said before, if this continues to be an issue, I'll just have to set up Linux on my new desktop. I really want to. I don't want to dual boot. Or, I would run it in an emulator, but even the emulators are just really a pain in the ass for me. I don't want to do that. So I'd probably just dual boot it if I had to. But that's an issue, too, because then you got to partition hard drives and all this other nonsense, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, on to what I was kind of going to post up. One thing that keeps on surfacing with one friend today or yesterday, I should say, actually, is all this stuff about the Batman. And I actually forgot to look that up, because I hate to say it, but the Batman series, there was a series back, I forget when, when there were serials, not like Serial You Eat, but serials, and you go to the movie theater every week. On Batman, I was like, it's been redone a million times. It's going to be another origin story with, oh, God, I can't remember his name. Maybe it is dementia. The guy from Twilight, Robert Pattinson. But, yeah, I was just wondering, when did the first Batman serial come out? And I swear it was probably in the 50s. So I'm going to put that in. I forgot to do that before I started my show. I was going to do this, and I forgot. So bear with me. Okay, let's see. Actually, it came up quite quickly. Batman 1943 movie. So 1943, I thought it might have been earlier. Well, actually, it was earlier than I expected. Yeah, the first Batman film ever made was actually in 1943. I know there was a serial, like I said, mini series of episodes. But I thought that was before even any type of film. Batman 1943. So the bottom line is, God, I have to do that. I'm really bad with math, so I have to type up in a calculator on my desktop because I can't figure that out in my head. A simple mathematical equation like that. By the way, the other day, it was really weird, but the date was 20, meaning, how did that happen? Because somebody was mentioning about that. It was 2020. The date was the 20th. So somewhere they got 3 20s out of it. It was the other day, on the 20th of February. It was like 2020. How they came up with that, I don't know. But yeah, it's the year 2020. It was the 20th. And it was another 20 for some reason. I have no clue. But it was kind of weird. It was like, maybe you just play that number then. Maybe it'll come out. Let's see, 1943. That was 77 years ago. So that's pretty freaking amazing, Why I couldn't do that in my head, I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of weird. Batman is, it says the first superhero movie is over 100 years old. And that would be Batman. I thought it was like about 100 years old. I don't know where I got that idea from. So I don't know when the character originally came about, but yeah, that's kind of old. I guess the character kind of base, or it was probably based upon something else, yeah. The first superhero movie ever made was more than 100 years old. I should actually post this. Sounds pretty good. It is in Batman. So Batman, though, at least, film-wise, not in comic books, is at least 77 years old. So that's been around for a long time, so it's not going anywhere soon. If it's been around that long, it's going to be around for another 77 years because people love superhero movies. And I think part of the reason why superhero movies do well, and this may not be the case this time, but usually when the economy is doing really bad, people look for some type of escape. And the best way to do it is in science fiction, fantasy, and, superhero movies seem to do really well. But that wouldn't be the case right now because the economy apparently is doing really well from what I've heard. But, I don't know. It's kind of weird. By the way, I was going to interject. I told Matt, my friend Matt, I said something that made him laugh so hard I was going to place it in the show. So I'm going to put it like towards the end. That way, if I have plenty of material where it's not really necessary to put it into the podcast, I just won't do it. But if there's enough room towards the end of like an hour segment, then I'll just plop it in there. Because otherwise, it's going to be for him. Because I don't have many listeners. It'll just be repeating what I said in a phone message earlier today, or a voice text, I should say. Again, I hope when I listen back, people can hear this, because I'm looking at it, I was like, wow, this is really bad. The volume level being recorded is like really horrendous. Anyway, going back, because I did post this, the first superhero movie, the first real film based on Marvel DC characters was in 1966, Batman the movie, starring Adam West, campy version of the Caped Crusader. But it states in the 40s and 50s, Batman, Superman, Captain Marvel, now known as Shazam, because there's Captain Marvel from Marvel Universe, and there's Captain Marvel, which had been renamed because, you can't have two Captain Marvels. From DC, which one did I say first? One was from Marvel. There is a Captain Marvel. In the Marvel Universe, there was a Captain Marvel in the DC Universe, which was just renamed Shazam. Anyway, it says, in Captain America, all had weekly live-action serials shown in theaters while the first Zorro movie premiered in the 1920s. But then it states that but the first movie superhero came out before that in 1916, an almost forgotten serial film starring an equally forgotten hero, Judex. So I'd never heard of that. So going back to what I was saying about the Batman whole thing, that did kind of like there was a serial 77 years ago. So there was, my whole thing with that was, when did Batman first come out? But the problem is every movie that has been made past the 1966 film, and probably the ones before, the serials, went right into the character. But when Tim Burton had taken over, he was the one who kind of changed the premise, and he did an origin story of how Batman became, the character of Bruce Wayne became Batman, which was fine. But now what you see is one after another movie just rebooting the franchise of Batman, and all they're really doing is just retelling the origin story over and over and over again. They kind of did that with Peter Parker and Spider-Man too, I believe. And it's like, how many origin stories are going to make with these characters? I mean, I know, and Matt, you really don't care about this nonsense. Either way, it's just, I don't know. I mean, people don't have many ideas. I mean, they seem to, well, you know why movie companies do this stuff, film industry, because they make money. It's about making money. I mean, who wants to run a company and just kind of run by the seat of your pants and hope that you make some type of film that everybody's going to love? Well, it's impossible. If you the key factor in making anything that's going to make a profit, that you're not losing money, is to take the key ingredients on what works. And unfortunately, in superhero movies, I wanted to check. I forgot about this. I want to check Box Office Mojo right now. I think it's that, right? Box Office Mojo, because I'm curious what came in. Because speaking about, like, since I'm on this subject, okay, Call of the Wild came in number one, and that only made $8 million. That's the new Harrison Ford film. Sonic the Hedgehog came in number two at $6.4 million. And The Boys 2, Bram's Boys 2 came in number 3. 4 came in Birds of Prey. Well, here's the sad thing. It didn't even, like, the weekend before last, not this weekend, the weekend before last, I guess. Or last weekend, I should say that. That Birds of Prey movie, that's another DC-based comic book made into a TV series, a movie. Based, it was a sequel to Suicide Squad, DC comic book. Well, last weekend it made $1 million for the weekend. This weekend it actually made close to $2 million, and it's only been out for like not even a month, because it came out on February 7th, which I remember that because that's my birthday. So yeah, in less than about 3 weeks, it's only made like $1 million per week. That's extremely bad for a film. That is really bad. And I mean, I guess that's the other thing. People, after a while, they do get burned out on these superhero movies, I guess, or they get tired of anything. Because for a while there was all these movies about werewolves. There was these movies about vampires, and those went away for a while. They're going to resurface eventually. And unfortunately, it comes around again pretty quickly, rather quickly. It's not like it's a short-term thing. It's actually, again, it's something that kind of resurfaces quite quickly, like in about anywhere from a few years to about a decade, and then it's back again, and let's try this again. And I've noticed actually recently a lot of films are just remakes from films that I grew up with. Like maybe there were films that came out in the mid to late 70s, and it's like we got to remake these again. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's very rare that you see something that's original, I guess. That's the problem I think, my friend Matt, you have. No originality. I understand, our professor, because Matt always reminds me of this. John Gallagher said years ago that everything's been said, and, everything in film has been done. It's just redoing the same thing again. Something like that. I probably didn't say that correctly, Matt. But it is true. Like, I should even expand it from that. I should even go as far as saying not even just necessary film, but just in the entertainment business, because then you can kind of spread, you can make it more broad. But it is true. It is true. Everything's been kind of already done, and it's been just, it's not even like, repolished or resurfaced. It's pretty much the same thing over again. The only difference, and when they redo it now, they have to make it politically correct as well. I don't want to go there, but they have to make sure it's PC and not a computer, not a personal computer. And by the way, folks, that's one of my pet peeves. Everybody has their pet peeves. Matt, your pet peeve with me is when I mispronounce or misrepresent or misuse a word. My pet peeve is when people call a PC a CPU, because that's improper grammar. And now, though, a lot of these businesses, it's like, well, hey, we're not going to lose a sale. We're just going to entertain people and tell them that, yeah, that's fine. You can use CPU. Well, you know what CPU means? Central Processing Unit. You know what a CPU is, and you know what a Central Processing Unit is? It's the chipset in the computer itself. Intel makes CPUs. They're called i3, i7, and i5, i9. That's a CPU. You have, I just had to go off on this real quick. You have, just trying to educate people on this, on a very simple-minded matter, and that other people are think that way, not me. To me, it's very serious. You think of the company AMD, which I can't remember what they stand for. Not important. They're the competition for many years with Intel. AMD makes CPUs, central processing units. The new ones are called Threadrippers, multi-core processors, chipsets that go on board on the motherboard in your computer. There's another one that's kind of big right now that's cheaper than the Threadrippers. A Threadripper CPU, not a computer, but the chipset AMD has made, has the lowest one with 32 processing cores on one chipset. So that's like having 32 CPUs in your computer. And they have one that's actually got 64 CPUs on one chipset. So what does that mean? Instead of having 64 individual CPUs, all the CPU cores are put onto one chipset. It's rather big. I think my friend Rich, I'm probably misstating this. is like the new ones, the new CPUs are so massively big, they're almost the size of a credit card because of the amount of cores, processor cores on the unit. They might even just get change the name in the dialogue eventually because it's getting so massive. Now, they're really expensive, these CPUs, but also the other problem is if you use Windows 10, which now I'm forced to use, there is one major issue. Well, Windows cannot keep up with these new processors because they're too powerful for Windows, actually. Not that they can't handle it. I should put it in the way it's just a real waste of money because it's overkill. Like, unless you have a lot of money, like you're talking for that 32-core CPU, you're talking like, I think it's like $2,000. And for the 64 one, it's about $4,000 or $5,000. Probably more like $5,000. Is that a lot of money? Well, if you look at it, if you're having what years ago you would need a machine that wouldn't even exist that had that many sockets on the board, because that's what it goes into, these CPUs. They go in a socket on the motherboard. It would be, one, it would be impossible. And two, it would cost probably a lot more money than $5,000. So the bottom line is, yeah, it's a really good deal if you want, a lot of horsepower. Is it really necessary? Not really, because it's going to take years in my opinion, it's going to take years for Microsoft to catch up. Now, there is other operating systems I mentioned before, Linux and Unix. FreeBSD is the other name for Unix. They may maybe be able to do a little bit more, but I don't know how much. I really can't answer that. And also, which is really dumb in the part of Apple, which has really pissed me off lately, is that Apple also has, could take it. Well, they probably couldn't take advantage of it, but Apple would be another OS. Fortunately, they only use Intel chipsets. And the most CPUs that Intel have on a given chipset, I think maybe is 12, possibly 16. So they're way behind. Intel has been left in the dust at this point by AMD. I didn't want to go off that far because now I just wasted a half an hour on something I didn't think. See, this is the thing. My podcasts aren't really geared towards anything, and I like keeping it that way because it makes it more comfortable for me, and I'm not trying to struggle. Now, with this, how does this pertain for me getting a job in that field? It doesn't really pertain at all because it was just something I kind of, decided to do on my own because everybody does podcasts. Unfortunately, there's way too many people out there. And what's going to make mine stand alone, I don't know. Probably nothing at this point because the most I get in listener base is about 2 or 3 people if I'm lucky. And they're not consistent either. Sometimes it stoops down. Sometimes I get people from other countries, too, that listen. And I've had that in the past from like every country around the face of the planet. I've had one individual who might have accidentally stumbled upon my show and probably regretted it afterwards. So anyway, yeah, it was kind of weird. I just kind of popped up a couple stories, have something to talk about. There was a story that was kind of interesting from the Daily Mail. This young singer named Billie English became the first female artist to reach #1 with a Bond theme tune, James Bond theme tune, musical piece for No Time to Die, and only the second musician in 60 years to have a 007 track top the charts. So that's pretty interesting. She's a young lady, too, who tries to make herself look very unfeminine. So it was kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of good. Speaking of like young entertainers, I got a couple up on Doctor Who for tomorrow. And I'm kind of keeping that on the low brow for now. Yeah, my Billy English one. But there was, okay, here it is. Yeah, this caught me by this surprise. I went through this phase for a while that I was watching all, because TV is just so bad nowadays. Most of the time, most TV show programs are so bad that I don't bother watching regular TV. So for, I would say, almost a good 10 years, I was watching a lot of Disney shows, and that started back about 10 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know when, where we would go down the shore, my parents and I, together, but we would get separate rooms. So when we're in the room at night, not doing anything, and I got bored, I would just turn on the TV set. It was like, well, there's nothing on any channel. So what I ended up doing is I turned on, stumbled upon the Disney Channel, and I watched a couple of those shows. It was like, yeah, these are really fun to watch. The kids are very, I can't even think of the right word. They're very talent. They have a lot of talent behind them, and it was like a refreshing thing from all the regular TV shows that are basically every show is about sex and violence, and it just gets to the point like, boy, this is a real, this is very. One thing, it is a waste of time. That was what I was going to say. I was trying to think of another way how to phrase it. But yeah, it was a real waste of time. And two, it's just like, it's so redundant. I mean, every American show is just sex and violence. And it could be the simplest show, and it turns into sex and violence. So that being said, what I basically did was, I ended up like, wow, these kid shows at least have a little bit more to offer than just the normal thing. And a lot of the Disney shows had even the extra ingredient. These kids had to not only be, decent as actors to an extent for even a kid show, but they were also very good talent-wise in music. They knew how to sing and perform. So that kind of tuned me into other shows back years ago, like Glee and stuff like that, because, that kind of diverted from the norm of a lot of sex and violence as well, and that was refreshing. But anyway, getting back to the point why I'm mentioning all this, there was a story online I stumbled upon. It's like, you got to be kidding. There was this young guy, started very young. His name is Cameron Boyce, I think. I'm probably saying that last name wrong. Probably saying the first name wrong. But he passed away at age 20 from a seizure that, went wrong. That's what I think it said. Something on that line. Like he had. I didn't realize. I mean, you don't know about these celebrities in real life. You just know the characters they play. So yeah, that's like really was really depressing. That actually kind of brought me down because it was like, wow, this young guy, very clean cut, young guy. His first film, he actually made it into a film that I did see years ago called Mirrors. And that's where he got his start. That wasn't a Disney film, but it was a movie called Mirrors. I think they kind of acknowledged him it looks like in the Oscar awards, because he did die very young. Yeah, seizures caused by epilepsy. That's what it says. Dying last July at the age of 20 following seizures. So he died last year. I didn't even know because I don't watch Disney like I was for a while there, just because there was really nothing catching my attention on TV programs. Doctor Who has, but that was off for a year. So, and, there's so much streaming services right now. Like, for instance, when I mentioned Doctor Who, you can watch all the classic Doctor Who's for free on the streaming service, Pluto TV. And again, it's free, so it's really good. But yeah, this young gentleman, I was shocked when I saw this, like, only excuse me, only the other day that he passed away. It really just caught me off guard, excuse me. So, yeah, he was on a lot of Disney shows. He was like a regular character on many, many shows on the Disney Channel, none of which anybody have heard of. One that was popular and he was, kind of still really small was this television program called Jessie, which I've watched. I had watched quite often back a few years ago because it was fun to watch. There was TV show movies called The Descendants, and some other stuff he did. Like he had a really good career on doing all these programs on Disney Channel, and he was really well loved, I guess, by a lot of the kids. But, I mean, if it shook me up, I just wonder what it did to a lot of these younger kids who probably, loved this guy as an actor. And, he was very clean cut. He played on a few shows. And, you never heard about, like, dark tabloids about him like you hear about Demi Lovato and I'm trying to think who else, Miley Cyrus. No, he was like a very clean cut person, and you find out that he passed away. It's like, isn't there a song called "Only the Good Die Young"? Well, that would be definitely one of those cases. I was really shocked by that. And you know what? When I was going through stories to like try to talk about tonight, for a little bit in my hour segment, I think I might have enough that I won't have to. I was going to interject these jokes, but I'll stay away from those if I can. Things that I was mentioning about work that were really funny. Not that I don't want to mention them, and it's just that probably best if I don't. Well, I'll see. But, yeah, I was reading, it says ABC News, second person killed by Mardi Gras float this week. So, it's kind of weird. I've always wanted to go to a Mardi Gras, and not to the Mardi Gras, actually. I wanted to go down to Louisiana, I should say. The Mardi Gras would be cool, but you know what? I don't drink. So that it'd be kind of a waste, Mardi Gras in New Orleans. But it would be kind of cool because I like that whole kind of the southern setup, I guess. I went as far as Covington, Georgia years ago, and it was just, I was amazed how different the atmosphere is in Georgia than it is in Pennsylvania. And, there's a lot of deep history, I think, around New Orleans, and it would be kind of cool just to see a different type of atmosphere, I guess. Mardi Gras is big because for people who like to drink, I guess, and party, which I don't like to do either one, so for me, it's kind of like an irony. Why would I want to go to something that I really is not me? Well, it's more, I just like to see that whole atmosphere with, I guess, cemeteries, voodoo, and things like that. That's completely different, I understand. But they do these tours down in New Orleans, and before I lost my job, I was preparing myself to like, hey, I'm going to go down towards New Orleans, even after Mardi Gras, because then the cost would be a lot less, I'm sure, too. New Orleans is a tourist attraction, so it's always going to be rather expensive, but I looked numerous times to see if I was going to take a plane or a train, down towards New Orleans if it was possible, which it really isn't that easy to take a train. Like it was for me to take down to where I went in Georgia, because I went down to Atlanta. I had taken the train from Philadelphia down to Covington, to Atlanta, Georgia. Now it'd be a lot harder for me to go down towards where, in New Orleans. There really is no train around that area. So bottom line is, I was trying to weigh all this stuff out. I never really did, and at this point, I can't afford it. So this is the kind of stuff, by the way, makes me, I think, quite depressed. That being said, my dad says all the time, it drives my mother nuts, and I can see why, because now I'm doing it, using that term, that being said. But, I named this episode, I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but the name of the episode is called Shake This Disease instead of Shake the Disease. Because Shake the Disease is a Depeche Mode song. And it was like, I actually listened to it. It was like, yeah, for some reason comes to mind for the name of an episode. I'm going to call it Shake This Disease. And it was like, isn't that a Depeche Mode song? That's where I got the idea from. But unfortunately, the Depeche Mode song has nothing to do on the way I want to use it. I'm using it almost like as a literal thing, as opposed to what the song's about, which is, with most Depeche Mode songs, are about sex. My way of using it, and I did change it just with one word, and from the to this, is I just can't shake off this depression I've been under for a long time, and it's probably going to get even worse and actually more murky as I have some type of legal action that is going to take place, some type of situation I have to attend. It's a mandatory court pre-court type situation that I have to show up to. I have no choice, which I have to put in for that day off too, or days, because this is something I have to prep before and after. I'm gonna have to even take off a couple days, and it's on the week of March 18th. So so that's definitely bringing my my enthusiasm way down. Like, it's not been really good at all. Sorry. Anyway, it was kind of funny because I've seen a couple people post this. I think originally I saw it from my friend Todd. He sent it to me, and then I've seen a couple people post it on Facebook. But I'm really glad. But there's different stories, different areas you can get the same story from. But it says ICE defies California law and arrests people at courthouse. Basically illegal immigrants, because ICE is prohibited from doing that. You know, in California, they're under protection by the state. If you're illegally show up at a rally or whatever, you can't be you can't be reprehended if you're an illegal immigrant in California. Well, guess what? ICE kind of defied that, and it's like, well, they should be able to do that. You know, you should be able to circumvent any state law, and I think they should do that more often, in my opinion. Because all that does, if you're an illegal immigrant and you show up to like some type of protest rally and they cannot arrest you, now I don't know the whole situation, but if they can't arrest you for that, and it was only 2 people, by the way, to me that's just ridiculous. That's like them saying, well, look what I can do. You know, go F yourself, because, hey, I'm here illegally, and just to rub it in your face, I'm gonna like show up at this rally because I know you can't touch me. You know, that for one thing, being illegally in our country is it should be a federal offense, but apparently it doesn't seem to be. So, yeah, I have no problem with that. That's all I have to say. By the way, this was kind of funny. Of course, you know, having MSN as my main thing, I got to look for other sources. I probably have to use Drudge Report and put that as my home page, because I get all these, like, really goofy stories, you know, and they're all, like, from the left. They're all, like, very liberal. I mean, liberal media. So the stories are very jaded towards anti-Trump situations. But this one was just really funny. I've seen it a couple times. It was a couple days ago, 2 days ago. And it is from MSN. or NBC News, and it said pigeons with "Make America Great Again" hats are glued to the heads of pigeons in Las Vegas, not Los Angeles, Las Vegas. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of cruelty to animals, yes, because I know when I first heard, I actually did hear this on one of my talk shows. It's like, yeah, they got little great "Make America Great" hats on these pigeons, and somebody said, like, how do they keep them on their heads? So apparently they're glued on to the bird's head. So yeah, that is cruelty to animals, but I hate to say it, it's kind of funny too. Yeah, it says animal cruelty. Yeah, it says, while the stunt has drawn some laughs, Mariah Hillman, who runs the Lofty Hopes, a Las Vegas pigeon rescue organization called the Mega Stunt Animal Cruelty. So how he keeps these little hats on the bird's head is by gluing them on. I'm sorry, I just think that's hilarious. I mean, yeah, it's cruel. I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to laugh. Because it's just like, this is the best. This is the best thing they have against Trump. They're just like digging at stuff. Anyway, there's some story I saw. And it's like a complaint I always have about people, but, especially women, that the vanity with people nowadays of being so self-centered, and sometimes more so, well, it's actually equal anymore. But there was a story on Kelly Clarkson, who, I don't even know who she is. I think she's a singer, admits to a boob job. Vibes in photo of her enormous chest. I mean, it's just, you got the Kardashians who had butt implants and breast implants, and people follow that like it's like you're following some type of religious cult with them, and it's just like, this is crazy. And where do all these young ladies get this money from? Obviously, it's, if they feel uncomfortable with their body, they have the right. And if you're a guy and you feel like you're born the wrong sex, this is what, I brought this up a million times, I know. This is what really bothers me with our society. You can, complain to someone like the liberal left somehow, I don't know, and get the money or the funding or the credit to get whatever done you want to get done, like a whole new body, BODY, brand new breast, or if you're a guy, get breasts put into you, get a sex change operation. Don't worry about it. The taxpayers are pay all this nonsense, and I think that's a big problem. Speaking about taxpayers, I'm going to go to this story. Now, this was interesting. It was on Action News, Philadelphia. But Willow Grove, I didn't even know that. I lived down there for like 2 or 3 years. Well, not Willow Grove. I lived in Horsham. That's right around the corner. Willow Grove residents scrambling to save only walkable park in the neighborhood. So I didn't even know Willow Grove had a park. But yeah, Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. It appears the last remaining, and this is another problem I have. This is a big problem I have. It says the last remaining park is going to be changed into a parking lot. Now, my problem is with Jefferson Health, Abington Hospital. They want to make it. They want to take and destroy the park and make it into a parking lot. My main problem is everywhere you go anymore is, if that's not bad enough, not being made into a parking lot. The thing I have an issue with is that every piece of real estate is more so changed into, malls are like a dying thing. So I can't really say malls any longer, but they are definitely being made into like housing developments. A friend did send me the other day. He proved me right that people from New York and New Jersey are moving out of the state because, what I've always said, because of the high taxes. And that being said, how to say that again? It's even annoying me. They're going to their neighboring states, and Pennsylvania is one of them. And again, it's because the cost of living in these states is just so high. So, but these developers are cashing in on this and making more apartment complexes in every locale. What is it? And making more developments everywhere, anywhere they can put it. And that means destroying parks. And I think I mentioned this even last week, but at one point, maybe it was on a text or something, a voice text to somebody. But at one point, they wanted to change Valley Forge Park. That's a historical park. That is a national park. So they were unable to touch it. They wanted to change it into rather I think $1 million condos or something. And that fell through because the government did step in and said, you can't do that. But yeah, so the amount of greed in this area is just incredible. So when I saw this story on, we want to change, it's a bit different, but we want to change the last remaining park in Willow Grove into a parking lot. It does not surprise me at all. It really doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's like you're telling me something that I'm not surprised by because it's happening everywhere. These areas are being made, in my opinion, kind of top heavy with all this overdevelopment, just because you're getting people from areas that have the money and have them swarm the area to the point that you're almost suffocated. You have no room to even breathe anymore in this area because it's just so overpopulated. And I mean, again, a parking lot's different, but yeah, they're just going way overboard. And if I had my way, I would say, in the perfect world of Walter, I'd say they really need to put a stop to all this overdevelopment. Because one thing, the traffic has gotten really bad. The sewer systems are just a mess because in the area I live, they have too many homes and not enough underground sewage to handle all this housing. It was, we're beyond the capacity that the sewer system can handle around here. Probably doesn't make any sense. But, you get more and more and more aggressive drivers. The more people get crowded in this area, the more, I can't say the other word. The more issues we've had in this area, the more issues, and it's out of control now. So I have something to say about that one too, and I can't, so I won't. I don't even know what's affecting me. I've been having really bad sinus issues, and to the point that it's been incredibly painful. So I don't know. Maybe that's something completely different, but I'm sure this overabundance of traffic and houses and people. I mean, you have people that we never had before around here that just blast music all the time, day and night. I remember 2 years straight, there was a house across the street that used to be all fields at one point years ago, that every year for the last 2 years, I don't know if it's going to happen again this year, they have these rave parties at their house. The music's so loud that you can hear it from a quarter of a mile away, because it's not even just across the street. It's up the road across the street. And the traffic and the noise is so loud that the windows are vibrating in the house. I mean, that's ridiculous or crazy, whatever. Anyway, on a lighter note, because I have to throw this in, I'm actually almost at an hour. I'm going to keep it there tonight because it's going on at 5 o'clock. It's going to be 4:30 a.m. for me. I thought it was pretty funny because at work, I did it because it popped in my head like the stupid thing years ago. At the place I work, we had a temp named Brittany. We had actually, I think, more than one girl named Brittany. Not at the same time. So when I heard that, the thing that popped in my head was that Britney Spears song. I don't know which one it was, but from years ago where she goes, "It's Britney, bitch." So people thought that was, they said, "What did you say?" And I said, I'm thinking of that Britney Spears song. So a couple of the people think it was like really, really funny, and they keep on repeating stuff I do, like little quirks I have. And one of them is the Britney Spears one of me saying, "It's Britney's bitch." And it was just something that popped in my head, and they think it is so funny. I mean, it's been going on for the past year. That joke just keeps on going around, and they try to get me to say that. So, anyway, there was a story that was on USA Today. Yeah, I get the worst sources of information. Now I got to go back to my old sources. Britney Spears' boyfriend sends sweet recovery wish. Boy, that sounded bad. The mic's kind of in and out. After she broke her foot while dancing. This was like 4 days ago, it said, this story. So yeah, that was kind of entertaining. Looks like she has a boy toy too, Britney Spears. Like she's not 16 anymore when she first started out. She's a lot older than that now. But yeah, she seems like she has a boy toy. But yeah, 38-year-old toxic singer was hospitalized after fracturing her arm, I guess, because I don't know what it's called. Her boyfriend, Sam Agashri, I don't know, revealed on Instagram Tuesday. But the guy looks like he's probably possibly 20 years old. And Britney Spears is pushing 40, which, hey, I'll take 40. Trust me. But, yeah, he looks like he's like 18 years old or 20. So, hey, more power to her. Yeah, I just thought it was funny. I just had to mention because, speaking about singers, it says some country singer, Lindsay Lagsty. I don't know these people. I don't listen to them. Dixie Crush is dead at 25. What is it with these young people dying? What is it with my mispronunciation of words? That's even worse, right, Matt? And by the way, soon I will play what Matt, you wait for. You probably go right to the end of the show to see which piece of music that you had sent me that I'll play this week. Well, it's going to be still Menorah. I'm still playing that one because I said I was. I don't think I played that yet because, Matt, you sent me, at least a dozen pieces of music to choose from, but I still like Menorah, and Manoa. I'm from New York, but yeah, it's going to be Menorah. I'll mention it in the next 2 minutes because I'm running out of time. So, after screwing up this country singer's name, the girl who died, got killed. She got hit by either a truck or a car. She got ran over, got killed. That just happened as of this weekend. So that's pretty weird. Anyway, tomorrow it's going to be Doctor Who, and I have to laugh at this. It's probably the way I'm reading it, too. It's from a link called Vocal Futurism on Doctor Who. And last week's episode was kind of interesting. They incorporated Shelley, which I was actually confused by because they were kind of I guess the way I perceived it, they were insinuating that Shelley was actually who was the origins to, Mary Shelley, which is a woman, I believe. I should look that up. Wrote Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But they kind of say that Shelley was a guy. So there's something I didn't quite, they didn't make it very like Doctor Who. Jodie Whittaker goes back with her companions to visit Shelley. And it wasn't Mary Shelley. So I guess it was Mary Shelley, the sister or the wife of this other Shelley, which I don't know. Apparently, I forget his first name, but apparently according to the show, he was not as good of a writer as Mary Shelley, because Mary Shelley's, Frankenstein, obviously, is a big thing. I'm almost tempted to look that up. Let me see. I hate doing this late on the show, because then it runs over. Let's see. Mary Shelley. Gothic novels of Frankenstein. Okay, I was right about that. Mary Shelley did write Frankenstein. But who is this other Shelley? So I was confused by the whole thing. I didn't understand. Yeah, I was quite confused by the whole premise of this new episode. Maybe it's finally like to the point that Percy Florence. Oh wait, it was a son. Yeah, I didn't understand this episode. I really did not understand this episode. So anyway, it's like a two-parter, different names of Doctor Who. But yeah, she, I should say, Doctor Who goes back with the companions to see Shelley, and mainly she wanted to go back to the night where, Mary Shelley came up with the origins or the ideas to make the story of where it, originally came from. Of her, plotting out to make Frankenstein, the story of Frankenstein. It came out of, trying to, tells ghost stories amongst friends and family members or whatever. So, yeah, I know I'm not doing a very good job. It's 2 minutes after. It's too late to actually do any deep research. So anyway, it turns out that a Cyberman was involved in the situation that stirs up Mary Shelley's eventual making of which makes sense on the Doctor Who universe, that comes, where she comes up with the idea of bringing corpses back to life, reanimating the dead. Now, because Cybermen are mechanical men that their body parts are replaced with mechanical parts. So maybe that's a far stretch, but I can kind of see what they were trying to do. They are humans, Cybermen, and they get their parts, limbs and other parts replaced with other, with plastic and metal and other material other than flesh and blood. So I guess, I can kind of see where they were going with this. But anyway, this story from Vocal Futurism, or Vocal, and it says Futurism. I guess it's a subtext of this page. It says, Doctor Who, the best Cybermen episodes of the new series, and they have the two-part last week's episode of Doctor Who on there. And it's like, I'm kind of laughing. It's like, well, no offense. Well, at least with Jodie Whittaker, it's the only Cybermen episode they've ever shown on the new Doctor Who with her. So it's kind of like, I assume they mean the new series, not just her. For the last 10 years that Doctor Who has been brought back. But the way I had taken it just kind of made me chuckle. Well, this is the best Doctor Who episode with the Cybermen, and they have a picture of Jodie Whittaker. Well, it's her only episode with the Cybermen. So again, I thought it was kind of funny. It's kind of stupid, I guess, at the same time, but I get easily amused by even the way I perceive things. Anyway, yeah, you know what? I did run out of time 5 minutes ago because I do love to talk. The name of this episode, like I said, is called Shake This Disease, not The Disease. And I did use the Depeche Mode's apt or icon or picture from the single. Probably shouldn't have done that. I don't think people really care, all two of them. But that, and right now I will play from Matt Torrance, his piece called Menorah. So have a good night, everyone. And I'll probably see you next week, I hope.